As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.
Giving your breaking daily updates related to the Sebastian Rogers case. This is going to blow your mind, guys. I've been personally covering the case of Sebastian Rogers, a 15-year-old autistic boy that disappeared from Hendersonville, Tennessee. His mother, Katie Proudfoot, and stepfather, Chris Proudfoot, came out and told their stories in this interview about what transpired related to the disappearance of their 15-year-old son. Katie, Sebastian's mother, describes the day before he disappeared, Sunday, February 25th. They went to BJ's, he got a colossal popcorn, he was just a very happy, jovial young man, and they came home, put some snacks away, and then they went to a local bowling alley, and next to the bowling alley was a steakhouse where they ate. After they ate, they loaded up and went home. He took out the garbage, and the rest is history. He goes to bed at 9 p.m. Mom goes to bed at midnight. She awakes at 6 a.m. to wake Sebastian up as she normally does, and he's gone. Christopher Proudfoot states that he was not even in the area at the time that Sebastian left the home, that he was many miles away as he was working in Memphis and staying in his camper in Mississippi. A lot of people watching this case unfold became very, very skeptical of both Katie and Christopher Proudfoot's story about what happened leading up to Sebastian's disappearance. Many people noticed the deep abrasion scratches in some areas looking like bite marks on Christopher Proudfoot's arms some 8 days after Sebastian disappeared. Seth Rogers, which is Sebastian's biological father, decided to start doing some ground searches and raised money on a GoFundMe page to aid those efforts. Christopher Proudfoot threatened Sebastian's father in a lawsuit related to the GoFundMe page and also the fact that Seth appeared to make the other side of the family, look bad. Many people went out searching for Sebastian Rogers, and the one thing that was missing out of all the efforts volunteers put forth was Christopher and Katie Proudfoot. And when people asked them why they weren't out searching for their very son that went missing from their home, they told people that it was because law enforcement told them to stay home. However, that very evening, they were seen at a barbecue joint outside of the home enjoying a dinner. Meanwhile, never once searching for their very son that they say they care about and want to come home. Media was in an uproar, demanding answers from both Katie and Christopher Proudfoot why they're not helping with any searches for their son. And what was their response? They got in their camper, packed it up, and took off. Sebastian's mom and stepfather took off to a campground in Mississippi where they returned home for a short while and then returned back to this campground. Right now, it appears that the camper is still at this mobile home park or RV park with Chris's truck, but we have confirmed Chris is not staying there and has installed a camera on the camper. There are so many people curious as to why there's a camera on this camper, but not on their home before Sebastian Rogers walked out that door. The sheriff was very cordial at the beginning of this search for Sebastian when he truly believed both Katie and Chris Proudfoot were deemed innocent and had no culpability in the disappearance of their son. If you look at the newest interview Nick Barris has with this very sheriff, you see a much different demeanor. Does this case anger me? You darn right. Does it make me want to almost lose my mind? You darn tootin'. Chris and Katie have a lot of explaining to do, because what I just laid out for you is only a minor, small amount of the case against them.
Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club.
Well, hello guys. It is great to see everybody tonight. We're going to be going over a lot of information. We've been kind of breaking down this case. We've been trying to stay focused and true to Sebastian and the mission to find and bring Sebastian home. It's been quite the ride, a bumpy ride to say the least, but we've been staying focused on this case, and I think we have been really working hard and hitting it out of the park. And it's not just me, it's everybody. All of you guys have helped me get to this point. It's your emails, it's your perspectives. It's constantly keeping me on my toes when I'm not looking at something. You're telling me to look this way. You know, you're not paying attention to this. You're not paying attention to that. It's everybody. It's understanding the autistic child. For a person like me that doesn't have children, the only children that I raised were healthy and didn't have these types of problems. It's hard to wrap my head around, you know, the autistic mind. But with the audience and the help of the audience, we were able to learn a lot about autism. So the people here that were like me are now educated. And one thing that we know is that each person has their own little tics. Each person has their own types of meltdowns for their own types of reasons. But at the end of the day, they're smart. They love life. And for Sebastian, he should have had the opportunity to continue. Now, we don't know what Sebastian's fate is. We can only assume one way or another, you know, what our personal thoughts are on that. Tonight, that's not going to be the topic of conversation. The topic of conversation is going to be more boring and more educational, because right now we have a situation here where we have two parents. This is our Katie Proudfoot, and this is our Chris Proudfoot right here. This hairy guy right here. It's nice to see you, Chris. I'm Bullhorn Betty. This beautiful face right here is Sebastian Rogers, and he is the one missing. Now, as you saw in the intro video, Katie was the last person that saw him alive. Their story doesn't make sense. We're past this. Did law enforcement do everything that they were supposed to do? Are they following the rules and procedures that they set forth, or the best practices set forth by the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children? I really don't know. I'd have to say that if forensics aren't done, they're not following the proper procedures and protocols. That's what I'm going to say. The reason why I have to say it like that is because, in all fairness, law enforcement hasn't kept us up to snuff on this case. They've let a lot of people get anxiety. They've let their community worry. They want to know what's going on, and they've had no public information officer to assist. We've gotten to the point on this show that we're now saying, hey, you know what? If you want to unalive your kid, go to Tennessee. That is your best state to be able to do. It sounds pretty sick, right? I do that for a purpose because I want it to resonate for the people out there. I want it to resonate for the politicians that may see this in the future. And I want it to resonate for law enforcement that is in Tennessee. I don't blame the worker bees. I blame top brass. So whenever I ever say anything critical of law enforcement, it is not the men and women of blue. It's their bosses and their bosses' bosses. It's top brass that I am always referring to, because at the end of the day, there is a command. There is a chain of command, and we know that the worker bees have to listen to the higher ups. So they never really have their own decision making. So I never include them. I always include, whenever I'm critical of law enforcement, unless it's a law enforcement officer that is done wrong and we're talking about a specific officer, I'm talking at all, and will always be referencing top brass. So I think one of the main things is I referred here, and this right here is put out by the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, and it's law enforcement's policies and procedures for reporting of missing and abducted children. Now, there are things in the state of Tennessee that allows them to get, is this the one? Yes, this is it. That allows them to utilize the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And it's this one right here, okay? This right here is the Tennessee Code section 38-6-125. And as you see down here, we're going to go over this more, a little bit better. But as you see here, this whole law here is basically giving the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, basically allows them to be the clearinghouse, if you will, for their missing and exploited children. So I just wanted to point that out, and of course the criterias of the Amber Alert before we go on here. The criterias for any Amber Alert, and I want to point this out, is right here. And you will see and. That means it has to include. Whenever you see or, it's either or. But when you have and, that means it has to be that, and that, and that, and that, and that. Okay? So the person has to be 17 years of age or younger, and that child has to be in imminent danger of bodily injury or death. And there has to be a description of the child, the abductor, or vehicle, and on a request from another state for activation, there are direct and identified nexus of the state of Tennessee, and the information is conveyed to TBI at once for the request. So TBI receives the request, it goes over to their clearinghouse. The issuing an Amber Alert is not as simple as pressing a single button. Here it explains the process at TBI headquarters. Instead, it's a complex process requiring various layers of notification across Tennessee. The TBI places priority on notifying the media, the National Weather Service, Tennessee Department of Transportation, and TBI social media audience in an effort to quickly share the information with a public at large. The TBI also works with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to activate the cellular, telephone networks, billboards, and secondary alert notifications. So the National Center, which it is common over here, that the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children are the clearinghouse for many states, and it's actually built into their law. And the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children are funded through grants and other things by our federal governments, as well as the philanthropists, because they are a nonprofit organization and not attached to the government, other than the means of collecting, funds. So I've been going over their model and stuff like that, and there's a lot of stuff in here. The first few pages, really, it doesn't really affect us. It's more toward law enforcement. But then we start getting to where it's breaking down some information and the procedures. Their procedures, the best practices procedures, start right here on page 4. And I definitely recommend anybody read this right here, because this really goes into explaining what goes and what will transpire. Now, it does have some federal laws and federal statutes in here for young adults ages 18, 19, and 20 and how to handle those. But for the most part, we're going to be going to just a little bit further than that when it comes to Section B, Okay, section B starts on page 6 of this. And this is where we're going to start reading. I'm going to read this all to you because I think it's very important for us to know what the best practices and procedures are, because I feel like this is where we got complicated by law enforcement. I feel like law enforcement should have went in there, not as a missing person, but as this is a crime scene. This is one of the biggest mistakes law enforcement makes. You always want the best possible outcome, but it's the preparation in the early stages in case it doesn't turn out as you wish. Those immediate stages at the beginning are the most critical, and the first 48 hours is the most critical. And if they lose stuff during that time, we are going to have problems. So in here, it says the initial officer or first responder assigned to the report of the missing child shall. Shall is a very, very strong word in the legal sense. It's not may, it's not will, it's not must, it's shall. It means they have to do this, okay? They shall do this. In the legal sense, legalese, shall is one of the strongest words to use. 1, respond promptly to the scene of the report, activating patrol vehicle mounted video camera, even if the assigned officer has been provided with the initial information, such as the missing child's description and other facts about the incident. It is best not to delay response to conduct random searches by doing things such as circling through parks, checking playgrounds, stopping and speaking with suspicious individuals. The initial officer assigned should respond directly to the scene, and these activities should be handled by other patrol units. Is no one worried about Faith? Treese, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into a lot, okay? So that's the first thing. The responding officer, the one that's getting it, needs to report directly to the scene and let the other officers handle everything else. Now, 2, interview the parents or the person making the initial report. So that would be Katie Proudfoot. The purpose of this interview is to gain an insight into the circumstances surrounding the missing incident and other information needed to conduct an initial assessment of the case. 3, obtain a detailed description of the missing child, including photos and videos. The collection of information about the missing child, including race, height, weight, hair color, eye color, shoes, clothing, and other noteworthy features, as well as any medical conditions or special needs the child may have, should be done promptly and relayed to other officers assisting in the investigation. Several recent photos and or videos, if available, should be secured. Again, the use of missing person report form will be expedite the collection of descriptive information. Photos should be the most accurate representation available of the missing child. If no photos are immediately available, check social media platforms and mobile devices for any photos the parent or reporting person can confirm accurately depicts the child. 4, confirm the child is in fact missing. First responders should never assume searches conducted are distraught parents or other have been performed in a thorough manner. Another check of the scene should be made and include places where the child could be trapped, asleep, or hiding. Special attention should be paid to enclosures such as refrigerators, freezers, laundry machines, and other interior and the interior of parked cars. Where limited breathing air may be placed, the child even at greater risk. In the event of older children, first responders should ask if the parents have checked with the child's friends or perhaps overlooked or forgotten something the child may have said that would explain the absence. 5, verify. This is what it says in the notes section right here. There's a notes section to it on at the end of 4 and into 5. It says a search of the home should be conducted even if the child was last seen elsewhere. Now we go on to 5. Verify the child's custody status. First responders should ascertain whether a dispute over the child custody may have played a role in the missing incident or might constitute a risk factor. Questions regarding whether the reporting party has legal custody, if the non-custodial parent has been contesting custody, or if the missing child expressed the desire to live with the other parent may help an officer gain important insight into the case. 6, identify the circumstances of the missing incident. First responders need to ascertain whether the circumstances are such that the heightened level of response is warranted. If risk factors exist, as defined in defined in paragraph C, section 3, then the decision to employ additional response methods is clear. In other situations where the circumstances are not clear, officers should prioritize confirmation of the missing child's safety and well-being and act accordingly. Now it says section C. Let's see if we can go over to section C before we lose that, because I feel like if I read section C after this fact, we might get lost into the translation. And it says section C, the supervisor assigned to reporting the missing child shall obtain written reports from the first responder officers, other agency personnel at the scene, and briefing allows supervisor to determine the scope and the complexity of the missing child and the child case and develop appropriate response. And it goes through there on executing the Amber Alert. So I kind of understand that now. Now we're going on to 7. Determine when, where, and by whom the missing child was last seen. This information, let me see what you got. What you're saying, Misty? We shall celebrate one CP and have been charged, arrested, and prosecuted for their involvement in Sebastian's disappearance. We cannot wait to bring these cold-hearted folks to justice. And we're going to have to talk about another thing, too. You know, we heard through the grapevine they passed the polygraph test. Whether, one, we believe that that is true, and if it is true, what does that mean? Something else. We're not going to be discussing that today, but just to get those gears turning, we are going to be discussing that. So start thinking about your perspectives and your theories related to that topic. So 7, determine when, where, and whom the missing child was last seen. The information is needed to determine factors such as abduction time frame, window of opportunity, and verification of previously received information. Interview family members, friends, associates of the child, and friends of the family. Determine when each last saw the child, what they think happened to the child, and if the child had talked about concerns in the home or being approached by anyone. Comparison of the information gathered from the reporting parties and witnesses and other sources may prove vital in case direction. So we can at least assume that by these standards that people have asked, had Dara been interviewed, had her children been interviewed, had Michelle been interviewed, have her kids been interviewed? The answer is most likely they have. According to this protocol, they have. We're going to be we're almost halfway through the most interesting part about this. Now we're going to go over to number 8. Interview the individuals who had last contact with the missing child. Effective questioning of those individuals who last saw or spoke with the missing child is crucial in the case assessment process. So they're going to be looking at her statements she made early on and the statements she's making now. And we know that the statements that she made early on don't sound anything like the statements that she's making now. So that's going to be a problem for her, whether she passes a polygraph test or not. While seeking information about the child's appearance, demeanor, and actions, officers should also be alert to any conditions made or evasiveness demonstrated by witnesses, especially if these statements cannot be readily corroborated. Thorough documentation will allow investigative personnel to later compare those statements with the facts of the case as they are uncovered. Identify the missing child's zone of safety for their age and developmental stage. Responding officers, his zone is his house. He doesn't leave his house. He hangs out at his house. They go to work. They come home. He goes to school. They come home. They go out to groceries, food.
places, they come home. He goes to his room, he plays. His safety zone is his home. That's it. So he's outside of his safety zone, period. Responding officers should have a hasty search of the zone while attempting to determine how far a missing child could have traveled on foot from the point last seen before they would almost likely be at risk of injury or harm. Likely travel routes and probable areas the child may be found. That this perimeter should, under many circumstances, define the initial search zone in the case of a child. Oh, here we go. You guys are going to want to hear this. This perimeter should, under many circumstances, define the initial search zone. In the case of a child on the autism spectrum, it is imperative that all nearby bodies of water are searched immediately, as many of these children are drawn to water or other hazardous areas such as traffic lights or trains. 10. Make an initial assessment of the type of incident by employing all available assessment tools such as completion of standardized forms, interview with parents, other family members and friends, statements of witnesses, and search of the scene. An officer should be able to reach a preliminary determination regarding the type of case that should and the type of additional resources needed for the specific case. And we know within 24 hours, this case heated up. We know within 72 hours, we had the DA out there on the scene. So we have, action that's not normal and customary with a missing child out there. Here's another note on this as we go into number 11. It says, note, officers must be cautious. This is in here. I even highlighted it. Right there and put up a nice little beautiful arrow right there. This is very interesting. And this is where I think they failed the most. And then we'll get over to some questions and then we'll move on with the show. Note, officers must be cautious in labeling or classifying a missing child case, since the classification process will impact the way in which initial information or evidence is gathered. Even if first indications suggest a less urgent incident, officers should consider all possibilities until the case category is clearly determined. Now, we go on to 11. Obtain a description of the suspect abductor or its companions or other pertinent information. Officer needs to immediately record witness information, not only the general investigation used, but also before witnesses forget details or speak to others who may confuse them or make suggestions about what was observed. And we know that Chris Proudfoot stopped by some neighbors and previewed some footage prior to law enforcement. If it is possible the child was abducted and the abduction scene involves a business or other public space, officers may be able to supplement witness information with videos from security cameras that might provide crucial information about suspect, abductors, vehicles, and circumstances. The case of the suspected family abduction, the reporting party may have photos of the abductor or other valuable information. If the incident occurred in a neighborhood setting, a neighborhood canvass should be conducted to locate homes with security and or doorbell videos that may have captured the incident. Now, we're going to start getting into more detailed processes here. And this is also where I feel that maybe we lost critical timing on this. So according to number 12, there are 5 categories of missing children. There are disability, endangered, involuntary, juvenile, and catastrophe. Simply because the child is younger than 18 does not require juvenile category to be used. The circumstance should govern the category selection. 13, provide detailed description information to the communications unit for broadcast updates. As information becomes available regarding the missing person's physical appearance, circumstances of the case, or description of the potential abductor, the initial officer should help ensure other officers and agencies are provided up-to-date facts. 14, identify and separately interview everyone at the scene. Many asked, would Katie be interviewed by herself? I said most likely she would. They would have done at least the first one at the scene. Record the name, address, home, and work phone numbers of everyone present at the scene, along with their relationship to the missing child. If a person, if possible, include them in photos and or videos of the incident scene. By interviewing each person privately, officers may be able to uncover information instrumental to the recovery of the child. 15, conduct an immediate and thorough search of the scene. This is where we're going to start. With the assistance of additional personnel, a systematic, thorough search of the incident scene should be conducted. If appropriate, officers should obtain written permission to search the house, apartments, outbuildings, vehicles, and other property that might hold information about the child's location. A thorough, immediate search, here it is, of the child's home and property should be conducted, even if the child was last seen at another location. Evaluate the content and appearance of the child's room and residence. When possible, officers should also search a missing child's school locker. We see another big star and a highlighted information. This is important. This is where I feel we may have dropped the ball slightly. Okay? I feel like we may have dropped the ball slightly. Seal, protect scene, area of child's room, and an area of interest as potential crime scenes. They're telling them right here that no matter what the situation is, this should be handled as a potential crime scene. This is where I feel like they messed up. An area of interest, potential crime scene. First responders must take control of the immediate area where the incident occurred and establish an appropriate perimeter to avoid destruction of vital evidence. Extend the search to surrounding areas and vehicles, including those that are abandoned and other places of concealment, such as an abandoned appliances, pools, wells, shed, other areas considered attractive nuances that are likely to draw a child's attention. In addition to external crime scenes, the missing child's home and its residence, and particularly the child's bedroom, should be secured and protected until electronic and physical evidence and identification materials such as potential items containing DNA, hair, and fingerprints are collected. I heard no fingerprints were collected. I heard that the child's room did not have any of this testing done, such as collection. They may have collected DNA, hair, but I don't know about the fingerprints. 17. Inquire if the child has access to the internet, a cell phone, other communication devices, although be aware a child may have these without parents' knowledge. Before making an initial assessment that the child is missing on their own accord, an officer should determine if the child may have left to meet someone they encountered while online. Since some offenders use the internet to identify vulnerable children, what appears at first to be the case of a child who has run away may in fact be a child abducted or enticed to leave after meeting someone online. Be prepared. Prepare necessary reports and complete appropriate forms. It goes into C, and it goes into what the protocols of the supervisor, and we'll discuss that at a later time. But again, it comes back to this scene, his bedroom. I have a problem with that. We do know that they went in there. We do know they searched it. We do know that they collected bedding and clothing. They did that at the house. They did that at Seth's house. They did that at multiple locations. But we don't know about the extenuating family, the external family, like Kathy and Terry Bowersox, because, we don't know. We know that they would have at least questioned them at minimum. And the questions may have been difficult. And that may be the reason why Kathy and Terry got out of Dodge 2 days after. They would have been interviewed immediately up front, and they left. They left. So I want to go over here to the Star because I know I missed something. Oh, Michelle, thank you for gifting a Bullhorn Betty membership. If you received your Bullhorn Betty membership, please do not forget to tell Michelle. Thank you. I wanted a big shout out to all of my beautiful mods that are keeping this chat clean, and I hope everybody's really appreciating it. Don't forget to tell your mods thank you for all that they're doing. They work very, very hard, and it's not easy when we have 800 people in chat. So we want to give them a big shout out for doing an amazing job. We've been discussing, all this stuff related to the forensics and what they should be doing and what they should not be doing and everything like that. But at the end of the day, it comes down to, why are we doing this? Why are we putting Tennessee on a pedestal? It's because we have more cases there that I'm personally involved in than any other state. One of the things that I noticed when it comes to the state of Tennessee is the fact that if the child is missing and a body is not found, then nothing ever happens. No charges are brought, not even the ones that they can charge for, such as endangerment. Like Don and Candace Wells should have been put in jail for at least 2 to 5 years for the conditions that they allowed their children to live in. It was unhealthy, it was unsanitary, and until they start making those, they took all of their children and not one charge. Me personally, a law and order woman, thinks that is not what I consider due process. If they did not commit a crime, then it is not for the state of Tennessee to remove a child. I feel that a crime has to be committed. Negligence is a crime. Abuse, child abuse, is a crime. So it is of my belief, if you're removing children permanently from any residence, there better be charges that come behind it that warrant that removal of the child. There are a lot of parents out there that I have talked to that have said that their children have been removed wrongly, that they had no help. That makes me sick. So you know what would stop that? Charge the parents. If you got enough to remove the children, charge the damn parents. If you don't, give the kids back. That's how we roll. That's how we roll. So I don't know what's going on in our children's stuff. I know that we've got major problems. But at the end of the day, it comes down.
After the victim dies from his injuries. The shooting was early Sunday morning on Nolensville Pike.
They got the wrong one, I think. Here it is. You're going to have to deal with a commercial. Let's see, get that up. There we go. Sorry, I tried to save it for you, but apparently it must have popped off and kept rolling. So when I got back there, it was already sound. Let me see. Where's my sound button? There it is. Give it just a few more seconds.
40 children.
There we go.
2023 draws to a close. At least 40 children are still missing from areas across the state. TBI says some left home on their own, while others may have been abducted by a family member. The children listed only represent a portion of kids missing in the state. In an interview last year, TBI's assistant special agent in charge claimed as many as 600 kids under the age of 18 go missing each month in Tennessee.
600 kids. 600 kids every month go missing in Tennessee. And that's what I talk about. A lot of these kids are healthy. They ran away. They have custodial things, a lot of custodial things from, parents to foster parents versus bio parents. You got a lot of that going on. And, Tennessee does have a lot of substance abuse issues going on with them. So we could definitely state that probably does have some type of effect when it comes to that particular state. But we are looking through all of these things. I'm trying to see here. I got some stuff up here. Here's some other stuff I found out. This is from the FBI. It says, what should I do if my child goes missing? Time is of the essence. Immediately call your FBI or closest, whatever. I don't know why they say FBI office. That's what the FBI says. Call your local FBI office. If you have a child go missing, I say call 911, but hey, whatever. If you don't believe me, let me put this up. I'm not making it up. That's what they say. They say, call them. Call them. And of course my stuff dropped. So hopefully I don't have any more videos right there. Time is of the essence. Immediately contact your local FBI, not 911. That's what the FBI tells you, right? Then they ask you if a child goes missing and possibly kidnapped, but no interstate transportation is known, will the FBI begin an investigation? Yes. FBI will initiate a kidnapping investigation involving a missing child of tender years, even though there is no known interstate aspect. Tender years are generally defined as a child 12 years or younger. The FBI will monitor other kidnapping situations when there is no evidence of interstate travel, but it offers assistance from a variety of entities, including the FBI laboratory. Missing and exploited children, we kind of went through all of that. And I think we're kind of down at the end of this. Hold on, no, we're getting to some interesting stuff. Generally regarding first steps of, now we're getting into the forensics. So I asked, let me make sure I've got this up on the main screen. There we go. Let me make it a little bit bigger so you guys can read it. So I was asking a bunch of questions doing my research, and you see the National Institute of Justice, National Missing Persons, there's a lot of different other people that the sources are coming from in these overviews. And it says forensic evidence can be a critical or crucial part of a missing person investigation, and police may ask for samples during the first 3 months of the person's disappearance. However, the timing of forensic collection depends on the circumstances of the investigation. For example, in cold cases, it may be important to resubmit dated evidence for analysis using newer technology. So we're getting into the other stuff in some of these respects. So I saw this here, and I thought this was interesting, and it is preliminary investigations. The preliminary investigation initiated by a competent mandate authority is the basis for identifying and tracking the focuses of collecting background information about the event, the missing and unidentified person. It is consistent with formulating the hypothesis related to the investigation of possible person's identity, list of missing or deceased people. It also says, although a general regards the first step in forensic investigation, background research began at any time, although the sooner it begins, the better, and should continue until the missing person is identified or no longer missing. And so I just feel like they dropped the ball as far as the actual forensics. And so we have some directives just from the state of Tennessee directly. And I thought that this was interesting. And it talks about how this stuff should be coded into CODIS and other databases so they have the DNA. I'm pretty sure they did say, I heard Katie say they collected the DNA on there. And I found this was short and sweet, so I'm just going to read this to you. It says, handling blood stain cards and other things. Again, I don't believe that they got any of this this would have been something that they would have been able to collect in the forensic stages. But my biggest concern when it comes to this is whether or not Katie and them know, because if, there was a time, if you guys remember the neighbor, when we listened to Miss Bobby's interview, Miss Bobby stated that Katie and Seth were outside the home when they drove by, that there were people standing out in the yard when they drove by. Did they elicit them outside of the house to stand out there so they could conduct their searches? And if that's the case, then why did they do the forensic or preliminary forensic testings in the house when they had the whole cavalry there? We don't know, but we do know they collected a massive amount of stuff from the bed. But the reason why we want internal forensics done is because if they change the bed, if they changed the sheets on the bed, if they gave him the wrong clothes, if she gave him the clothes that he was in Saturday, you guys have to remember, Seth told us when he pulled up and he went in there, Katie took her phone and shoved it into his face. I've got the photo she used to shove into his face. Here it is. It's this one. Uh-oh, where did it go? I know I had it. What? Is that my other phone? It's the, I'll save it on here. It's on one of two phones. I remember seeing it. But it's the one with the optimism shirt on. I could have sworn I kept that. There's no way I didn't. Is that possible? Hold on. There's no way. I must be missing it. I must be missing it. I remember, I did miss it. I remember downloading it this morning because I was going to be talking about it. Let me just check the other phone. Give me just a second. I want to show you guys the picture. This is weird. It's not here either. Let me find it. I remember downloading it. I must not have. Here it is. There it is. That one. Share. Okay, it's this one right here. This one right here. This right here is the picture that Katie threw in Seth's face and said, "See, I was with him. I was with him." This right here was from Costco. And it was from Saturday. And this was the photo that she was trying to pass off as being at BJ's that day. So I found that. Is it Seth's birthday? Oh, wow. Well, happy birthday, Seth. I see Mav is up in the house. I don't know who else is up in the house. I've been yapping my jaw. So that's really all I have for you guys. You know, I wanted to go through some of this stuff. You know, do you think that they followed procedure? I don't know because, to be honest with you, I feel like we're missing. I feel like they didn't tell us they did forensics, but did. But why? Why would they keep that from us? You know, it doesn't, to me, doesn't make sense. To me, it doesn't make sense. Are we sure is Seth in the house? Seth, if you're here, happy birthday. I'm sorry, I did not realize it was your birthday. I didn't realize it was your birthday. So Misty says, what blows my mind is Seth is a deputy sheriff. Seth is the one of their own, LE. So what TF are they lying to him? They're not, well, in situation, I can answer that question. I can answer that question because I know the answer to that question. I told you I have a lot of friends that are in law enforcement. They do not tell the father, they do not keep the father abreast of a situation like this. They just don't. They don't keep anybody abreast of a situation like this. When it's a criminal investigation, they completely shut down on everybody. Even if you guys remember when Layla Santinello's case, her mom just did an interview recently. I think it was on the Pascal show. And she was talking about, you know, how she was getting so angry because law enforcement shut down on her and she just couldn't figure out why they wouldn't talk to her or give her information. This is a woman that had literally nothing to do with her daughter's disappearance. She's not even considered a suspect or a person of interest in the matter. And she started looking at the statutes and laws and the policies and procedures and realized that they're in a criminal investigation, and that's why they shut down on her. It's a very simple thing. So it's not that they're cutting him out, but you got to think the reason why they do this is because in the past, there have been times that they shared stuff with the parents and they didn't have it right. And the parents went over there and took the law into their own hands and got themselves in a lot of trouble. There are many reasons why law enforcement does not share this information with people. Now, the problem is by them keeping, even though they can clear Seth, to me, it seems like the reason why they're keeping Seth as a person of interest and not closing him out is twofold. I think it's strategy, because once Seth is cleared, he'll be able to get additional resources that won't work with him until he's cleared. And I think it has to do strategy wise, that's part of the strategy. But the other part is if they clear him, then I feel like the focus goes directly on Chris and Katie Proudfoot. And that would be a major, major problem and cause Chris to freaking lose his shit. And I don't think law enforcement wants to deal with Chris. That could be another possibility. It may be a possibility I'm not even thinking about. But the most important, I don't think they're going to share anything with Seth because he's a distraught father. He has a fuse, a short, when he goes from 0 to 60. And I understand why. When it's your kid, I'd love to see how the public tells you to calm down, right? Or not to act freaking like an insane lunatic. Because I'm telling you, if anything happens to anybody in my family, I'm going to act like an insane lunatic. Okay? And if anybody has a problem with it, oh well. So he's doing better than Bullhorn Betty. But I agree. He's one of their own. But I think that they're doing it for his own protection, whether he likes it or not. I personally don't think Seth, I think Seth should be updated with, but see, I think it should be general information. Like, I don't think they should be blocking it out. I think they should be providing him at least minimal general information. Like, like Tony had asked, are you further along today than you were on the 26th? The answer is most likely yes. Just give him the yes. You see what I'm saying? Don't tell him the details. Just give him the answer. If it's that general, what difference does it make at this point? I don't think that anybody that is dealing with Seth honestly believes that he is a person of interest in this. Even the assholes that are bashing him don't think he's a person of interest. He's just getting the clicks and the views, so that's who they decide to bash and make up stuff about. Betty, please send this to Seth along with my message to him. Seth, we love you, and we will not stop until we find out the truth. Happy birthday, Seth. We love Sebastian and you. God bless y'all both. Sebastian's Army forever. Thank you. Thank you. I will let him know that that's there. It probably won't be sent until tomorrow, just FYI. So, but it will be sent. All right, guys, that really is all I have for you guys today. I'm going to go through here and see if there's anything that I can. Everybody just has a lot of birthday wishes for Seth, and what a sweet. I'm glad he can come here and look at chat and see that people care about him, care about his well-being, and more importantly, care about finding answers about his son. And leaves our judgment at the door. The day that somebody is guilty, that will be the day that we attack them, right? We have information like we do for the Proudfoots. We don't even attack them. We really don't. We lay out information. We think they're guilty. It's our perspective. It is what it is, but we don't attack them. These people have been vicious and vile and unhinged in their attacks on Seth, and it's wrong. No matter how you flip this, it's wrong. The people that are doing it, it's wrong. But their anger is overriding their better judgment. And people are supporting it. And there's nothing I can do about it except sit here and advocate for this little boy and beg you guys, please unplug from these jerks. They're causing so much problem. I spoke to a major for this case. That group is causing them major problems. and you guys are condoning it and you are supporting it. You need to think about that. Can you get the Ring camera from Kathy Bowersock's neighbors? That would prove the timestamp of her vehicle and possibly who was in it. Great. Well, I was also thinking of something else, but I can't, and it was from one of our subs, but I can't say it publicly because I don't want it shut down, because my cameras at the hospital were moved slightly, which doesn't really matter. I mean, at this point, we're going into town anyways. I'm going to get the answers one way or another. And I'm going to broadcast those publicly to the audience and the public, what my findings are. So it doesn't really matter at this point. And likewise with Kathy Bowersock's neighborhood, I will be going into that neighborhood as well, looking around there on public property, of course, not private property. I will be going and checking out with their community to find out the woods behind there. I think those are not owned by the community, but I will find out. And I will find out if I can get back there and do some searches, because I'm looking for something a little different than I was this morning. So things may change. It just what I'm searching for might be a little different today than it was yesterday, and it kind of sucks a little bit, but I have to keep that in the back of my mind. And it was from the helpful people, with our military that have reached out to me that helped, kind of paint, the ugly truth. The ugly truth. And I just want to thank all the people that participated in that. I'm not planning on discussing what we discussed or what you guys discussed with me, because at the end of the day, that was for my knowledge to help me when I get out there. And it just sucks. So hopefully that's not the case. But if it is, at least we now know before we go searching that, there may be some other variables that we need to be also looking at, maybe on a smaller level, so to speak. So anyways, guys, I want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank you all for learning a little bit more about the forensics, about the processes that the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children put out, what policies and procedures law enforcement should be following. I don't necessarily believe that those were all followed correctly at the beginning. I don't know if they've made those up or not, but, again, I don't know. This is the state of Tennessee. I've always said they've done law enforcement backwards. And it's because they believe they're people. They don't want to believe their people are bad people. And sometimes you just got to look at all the people like they're bad people until they're not, because you might lose some critical evidence and information. So that's what we're focused on. So guys, I want to thank you. Don't forget to like this. As you guys are going out, please like this. This helps the algorithm, helps me get this out. There's a lot of misinformation out there on these streets that are being peddled by horrible channels. And we need to get the good information out there to them. So please share me everywhere. Get out here. Make sure that my likes are getting up to 1,000, at least 1,000 or more. If you guys have not liked it, please consider liking it. I'm working my ass off back here. My mods are working their ass off over there. So we are bringing it, and we're about to go out there and get our feet wet with boots on the ground. So, any encouragement that you guys can provide is great. At times like this, we need it. If you guys have perspectives, areas, don't overload my email, because I'm getting, a lot of people are writing about different topics, and I enjoy reading them, and I don't want to stop that flow of information. But just be cognizant that I'm getting 1,000 emails a day. So if you can make them shorter and sweeter, I greatly appreciate it. But if you just have to explain, I'll read. But you might only get a thumbs up as opposed to thank you and kind regards, Betty. Just saying. All right, guys. I appreciate all your help that you guys have, and I know that the family Sebastian appreciates it as well, because we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be this far in this case if it wasn't for each and every one of you guys. So thank you guys. I do appreciate from the bottom of my heart. Before we close out, I just want to again go through our channel sponsors. Misty, my Mac Daddy, Pimp Daddy, Sugar Daddy, Sugar Mama, sugar something. Shitty bang bang. No, we got Michelle with the gifted memberships. Misty, again, thank you. And of course, Kathy Boone, thank you so much for your love and support. Guys, don't forget to rock it out with your coffee beans out. If you see something, say something. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And please, I ask that you guys stay safe, but please be kind to one another. I know sometimes when we're dealing with these cases, it's hard when people say things that you don't like, but just rise above it. You got to make the decision of whether you really actually have to even respond, right? Because at the end of the day, if we don't like something that somebody else is doing, that's our problem, not theirs. So just remember it. Just like when they have a problem with us, that's their problem, not ours. So what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Just be kind to everybody out there, and we should be building a much, much better platform moving forward. All right, guys, God bless.
From the East Coast to the West Coast, we are everywhere true crime is. We are asking for the public's help. We are searching in the woods. We are doing what it takes here on the Bullhorn Betty channels to find answers to the most alarming cases we have been watching on the news. I can tell you personally that I have traveled this entire country seeking these answers and bringing that content right here to you here on the Bullhorn Betty channels and Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories. We are happy with the work that we've done. We brought many answers to the public, and we have defied mainstream media in our pursuit of the truth in these cases. We will continue to work, we will continue to fight for these victims, and we will continue to tell their stories here on my channels. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty brand of channels and the Coffee Club. Thank you for your love, thank you for your support, and more importantly, thank you for allowing me to bring these victims' stories to each and every one of you, advocating for each of these victims. God bless you, God bless America, and more importantly, God bless our victims.